Let's get into the management at Biocon Limited now. Kiran Mazumdar, Chairman, Managing Director at Biocon is with us. Ma'am, thank you so much for taking out time for us. Good afternoon to you and your team. Just can you talk about the Q3 results, which were strong, once again led by Biologic. If you exclude the Syngene numbers, they are looking that Biologics once again drove numbers for Biocon.
Well, Biologics has had a very strong quarter. It's had a growth of 31% year on year. At the quarterly number, and it's a 50% year-on-year growth for the first 9 months. So I think Biologics has performed very strongly. As you've already heard, Syngene also has had a good set of numbers this quarter and for the first 9 months. Small molecules has also delivered fairly well. So I think if you look at it at a quarterly level, we've seen a 14% year-on-year increase in terms of revenues, 18% increase in terms of EBITDA, which is also a very strong performance. At a profit level, if you adjust for the tax pertaining to an exceptional item that really was an internal matter where we transferred an asset class to a new subsidiary called Bicara. If you adjust for that, then of course we've also seen a 6% increase in PAT from 211 crores last fiscal to 225 crores this fiscal. So I think overall we've had a very, very strong performance. And of course we expect an even stronger performance for the final quarter for this fiscal.
When you look at the core EBITDA margins, they have either been stable or increasing for the company. As you have a positive outlook on Biologics, which is growing very rapidly, do you believe this would translate into better margin going ahead?
Well, you can understand that when you look at the Biologics business, there's an increasing spend on R&D, and R&D is extremely integral to the Biologics business. As you know, our R&D spends are very expensive for biosimilar development. Now you can see that this quarter we've had a 71% year-on-year growth in R&D, which hits the bottom line, and that itself accounts for about 54 crores of extra additional R&D spends for this quarter. So if you look at that, then I think you will understand that maintaining high, margins in Biologics itself is a good performance. So in terms of uptick, I don't want to really, set that kind of expectations other than saying that you are going to see a very healthy 30% plus kind of levels. I mean, this year, if you look at core margins, it is 33%, but it's about 27% when you look at the net EBITDA margins. So I think if you look at just the Biologics business, certainly Biologics is in that sort of 30% plus operating margins, and we will maintain it at that. And if you were to factor the kind of R&D spends, then I think these kind of margins are very healthy.
Can you talk about this year or the following year, and how would you look at Biocon? Because main triggers for Biologics, you've done a lot of launches. Will there be market share gains? A lot of exciting launches lined up in this year. How would you look at the Biologics business?
So you're talking about FY21. Yes, we certainly expect FY21 to continue on this growth momentum. I think you are going to see a very strong performance by Biologics for sure, because this is the year where we expect the continued growth momentum of both pegfilgrastim and trastuzumab in the US. But we also expect trastuzumab and pegfilgrastim growth across global markets. And we also expect to launch insulin glargine in FY21 in the second half. And we also expect some other possible launches later in the latter half, or probably in late FY21, whose real numbers will show up in FY22, which will include bevacizumab and insulin aspart. So there are a lot of upsides for FY21, including recombinant human insulin for the US. But all that depends on the regulatory timelines that might factor these kind of events.
We're just around the budget as well. Next week, the budget will be presented. Can you tell us what sort of measures are you expecting in terms of from the government to boost personal or infrastructure capex?
Well, I think this budget is going to be extremely crucial to kickstart and revive economic sentiments in terms of investments. I think that is really the need of the hour. And I do expect this budget to announce some of those measures to revive, the investment and investor sentiments. I think the announcement by the Ministry of Finance and the Finance Minister on the 15% manufacturing tax, the taxation levels for manufacturing entities itself was a very positive announcement in this direction. But I think we need to really focus on investment in a big way. And I think right now, except for a few sectors, private investment is playing a wait and watch kind of a game. And I think government needs to take the initiative to kickstart the investment cycle by really focusing on infrastructure investment. And this in itself will have a huge spin-off effect because, investing in infrastructure at a mega scale and also ensuring that PPP models are entered into for infrastructure investment through incentives is going to be very crucial. I think government will have to basically free up capital by divesting PSUs and really focusing on public sector infrastructure and public infrastructure, because I think this will also hugely benefit many of the ancillary industries that support infrastructure development. And of course, it will also have a positive for cement and steel sectors. So I hope that the government really focuses on investment in a very serious manner. And I hope that it provides a large number of incentives to private sectors in terms of PPP models to get started with infrastructure development, because as you know, this will also be a big job creator and we need to put money in the hands of people. That's what has got depleted. On the other side, I think manufacturing has got a fillip in terms of taxation, but it could also help if the export sector also gets some incentives, because exports is another big opportunity for India. And I think here, extending SEZ or initiating new export incentives would also be very, very important for this budget. I know there's a lot of call for lowering personal income tax, but I personally am not in favor of that, at least for high income level taxpayers.
All right, Ms. Shaw, thanks so much then for joining us on this edition of Markets at Noon. That, of course, was Kiran Mazumdar Shaw of Biocon talking about the numbers and, of course, getting in her word as well on what the budget expectations are, especially from corporate India.